Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with a review and final diagnosis on the ZT0470. The 0470, like I mentioned in the unboxing video, is really an upgraded Atmos. This is a Kershaw model designed by Dmitry Sinkovich. Dmitry has really been taking off within the ZT and Kershaw lineup with a lot of very excellent offerings. I had the Concierge there for a little while. I've seen and used an Atmos, and now I've seen this. I've even seen some of Dmitry's higher-end collaborative efforts with regards to Shirogorov. You can go see the Sigma video. So Dmitry is really popular, but this design in particular caught my eye because it's one of the most restrained models that he has out there right now. The Atmos and then the 470 are really a very simple design with a simple blade, and I find that very appealing within the ZT lineup this year. The ZT lineup this year is also something that I really wanted to discuss in this video. It's been very, what should I say, regurgitative this year. What we saw come out of ZT were four knives that were actually regurgitations of previous models. We saw the 0393, which was the reiteration of the 0392 in the production form. The 0462 was the 0460 in bigger form. And that is arguably not terribly different from the 0450, another couple of Dmitry Sinkovich designs right there. Also, the 0609 was a smaller production version of the 0606, and then this is a ZT version of the Kershaw Atmos. So, with all those words and numbers out of the way, essentially ZT did not bring anything new to the table this year, and that was a little bit disappointing to me. This knife, the 470, is honestly probably my favorite of the four knives that I've seen come out of ZT this year. And that's because it's probably the best balance of useful and beautiful. And I think that they've really been very successful with this. So I wanted to go ahead and break this knife down anatomically and sort of go over the thoughts that I've had as I've experienced this knife. I've had it a few weeks now. I exclusively carried it for a weekend in New Orleans, and I felt like I got a good feeling of what it's like to carry as an EDC knife, and so I wanted to share those thoughts with you. Very, very quickly, we're going to go over some specs here. It's a 3.5-inch blade, right at about 8 inches of overall length with a 4.25-inch handle right there. It came in very light. This is one of the things that I enjoyed the most about this knife. It is extensively internally milled, and we'll talk about that when we get to the handle, but the weight is extremely low at 3.31 ounces, so to be below that 1 ounce per blade inch ratio is a wonderful thing to me, and that is the thing that I took home from this the most, that the lightweight combined with that blade length is a really, really compelling option. So let's go ahead and break this guy down anatomically. Up front is this blade of CPM 20 CV steel. I really like that ZT came out with their initial runs of their knives in 20 CV steel. ZT has been doing a very strange thing recently where they've been releasing sprint runs, quote-unquote sprint runs, of certain knives in S35VN. They did that with pretty much every one of the new models and some of the old models this year, and it was a little bit strange to me. We haven't seen that yet with the 0470, but inevitably something like that is coming. Maybe they'll give us a blue handle, a bronze handle, and an S35VN blade. I'm not certain that that's going to happen, but I've seen this trend with ZT. I find that a bit strange. I wish they wouldn't call them sprint runs. Maybe these are the sprint runs, the actual sort of base models. It's just hard for me to really figure that out, why they're doing that. But let's talk about the blade as it was as a user, and I really enjoyed it. This has a very simple drop point style blade. It has Dmitry's sort of signature tip on it. I don't know if you can really appreciate this, but I feel like the tip almost reaches out. It almost is almost as if it's ground so that it doesn't just curve upward and continue to curve upward. It's almost like a recurve so that there is more of a tip. It's hard for me to explain. Perhaps you can see what I'm talking about there. It was more pronounced on the Sigma from Shirogorov, but I feel like Dmitry really likes his tips to be very pointy, stabby, and this one certainly does do that. The very thin blade stock of 0.12 inches was really a joy. Confirm that again, 0.12 inches right there to see coming out of Zero Tolerance this year. ZT also released the 0609, a 3¼ inch blade that's also got that thinner stock on it. However, my main problem with the 0609 was that it came with the proprietary pivot, the see-through pivot, and they didn't release the tool for many, many months. We'll go ahead and move back to what I enjoy about this pivot, and that it's a T8 Torx, and that's it. It just comes apart. It's keyed, and so it's locked in on the other side. I will say that the pivot is locked into the carbon fiber, so unless the carbon fiber is not stripped and you have this thing pushed in all the way, you may not get the traction that you need. You may have to use some interesting techniques to open the knife. Moving back to the handle, this is the biggest achievement here. The marbled carbon fiber slab right here, they really nailed it with this. I think it's about time that companies started including some of these higher-end carbon fiber composite materials. There are so many to choose from right now, and it's absolutely awesome to see this from a ZT. I would be thrilled to see this material on the 0393. I mentioned it in my final diagnosis of that knife. How amazing would that be? But I think here it has been executed very, very well, with one very large exception, and that is this area down here, which I presume to be the area meant to place the pocket clip. It's interesting, when I tried to reverse the pocket clip, it goes over here, and it actually looks much better as a left-handed carry because the pocket clip is upside down on this side as it comes from the factory, and then when you flip it over here, it's right side up. When you put the screw in, there's one screw that will secure it here, but this screw absolutely does not really reach across and secure it. And then when you put a screw on this side, it just doesn't work. It doesn't sit flush. So I haven't quite figured that out. Perhaps someone can educate me down below. But I've had a few people tell me that they're left-handed and they can't reverse the clip even though the hole is there. So I'm a little bit confused about how that was engineered. These screws don't seem to be long enough for the clip to grab in through this side. Perhaps you have to push that through, but it didn't seem like it would go through to the other side right here. So I think that was a big miss. Maybe we'll figure that out together. But the handle itself is quite ergonomic, something that I have really, really enjoyed. And again, this extensive internal milling. Let me get a light in here. Maybe you can already see that. Sometimes shining these lights actually only makes things worse. There you can see some pretty extensive milling on that side. Let's see here. Maybe like this. Yeah, like this. You can see it's completely hollowed out inside there. So very, very light, and I really love that. That is a big win for me, in my opinion, because what that means is that this knife has had a very extensive amount of planning and engineering. From the blade to the handle to the geometry here. Take a look at the lock geometry. Very interesting right there. We have a steel lock bar insert. Just look at how that had to be ground, and it's basically got an over travel stop built into the pivot. Another thing that was engineered is the fact that the lock bar has a raised smooth area right there that is absolutely wonderful to disengage. Very, very easy, not even the slightest bit uncomfortable. It is a bit asymmetrical if you're into that kind of a thing, but it works extremely well. The handle is very comfortable. This is certainly going to fall into the gentleman's EDC category rather than a hard use type of a knife, which brings me to my final diagnosis on this knife, and that is that the ZT0470 is the best Kershaw I've ever owned. And I mean that as a compliment because Kershaw makes an excellent product. They are a Chinese made knives from Kershaw, the U.S. company, but they're slimmer, they're built for EDC, they're built for slicing, they're built to just get the job done. And I feel like this is what this knife has been designed to do, except upgraded in all the ways that you would hope for from a ZT. Extensive internal milling, Excellent use of materials. I'm excited to see what they do with the handles in the future. I would like to see them continue to use 20CV. These S35VN sprint runs are a bit confusing. The clip is a bit odd and doesn't work quite perfectly, but all in all, I would say this is my favorite of the 2018 models, even though they all are kind of regurgitated. Let me know what you think of this knife down in the comments below. Click like and subscribe, and as always, take care.